Hey everyone, Slizzle466 here, and in today's video we're looking at some of the best decks to ladder with in Wild post Stealer Assault nerf. Now, you're not going to see all of your favorite decks in this video. We're looking at decks that have had recent success at high legend. So for example, you don't see decks like Secret Mage, Big Priest, to give a couple examples, but those sort of decks are pretty much the stock list anyway, and not many cards would have changed in those archetypes. So we start with Odd Demon Hunter. Odd Demon Hunter is one of the go-to aggro choices in the current meta. It runs 22 1-drops, sometimes even more, and basically you just spam those 1-drops. You don't really trade very much with this deck. You usually hit your opponent in the face quite a lot. You've got cards like Fury, you've got Twin Slice to get even more face damage, Arcane Golem for face damage, Stilt Stepper for face damage, Leroy Jenkins for face damage. Now shockingly, we have two Hunter lists in this video. The first one is Reno Hunter by Flatulator. So the reason Reno Hunter, or Hunter in general, is crawling back into the meta is because of Serpent Bloom. 0 mana spell, give a friendly beast poisonous, and you can combo that with Dread Scale. At the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to all other minions. So basically, Hunter has its own version of Flurgle Toxfin, which Shaman has, and this gives Hunter just that extra little edge to maybe become relevant in the Wild meta. Otherwise, this list is just your typical Reno Secret Hunter list. It's pretty well built. It's got a bit of a greedy top end with the Call of the Wild and the Zul'jin, but if you want to play Reno Hunter, this is the way to do it. The other Hunter list to look at is Deathrattle Hunter. Now, this is the list that Zeddy was playing for fun to finish some achievements, but he ended up climbing 1,000 ranks up to top 500 legend. So this is a Tonk list, and Tonk decks are pretty fun. They're a little slow to get going, but once you get into the mid game, if you're not dead, it's a very powerful deck. So if you want to play a bit of Deathrattle Hunter, I'd highly recommend trying out Zeddy's list. Now, it wouldn't be a best decks video without a hand buff list from Bodybuilder, so this is his latest iteration of Handbuff Paladin. It's the deck that won't go away regardless of how many nerfs it gets. And those cards that are really helping it out are Animated Broomstick and Conviction. Crab is still in there, even though it got nerfed. It's still really good with that Wind Fury effect. You've also got Archdruid Naralex. Now there's a cute one. Now, I originally kind of wrote this card off, but it's actually pretty good. I mean, yes, you don't gain board control, but you get the dream cards at the end of your turn guaranteed for 2 turns, so it's actually pretty good. There's also, your typical Blade Master Samaru board clears, which is really difficult for your opponent to play around. And against aggro, the Chill Blade Champion can be devastating, especially combined with Conviction. So definitely, if you want to play Handbuff Paladin, check out Bodybuilder's list. Moving on to Priest, we've got a Reno Priest list. Now, beware of this list. It is not your everyday Reno Priest. This is a Thief Reno Priest. So you see cards like Cloning Device. You see cards like Thoughtsteal. So this is a competitive list, but it is just a little different than what you might typically see on the Wild ladder. But if you want to play something a little different, there's even a Mutinous in here. Soul Mirror, it's definitely quite the list, and let me know if you have success with this. I'm definitely going to be testing this one out, but this one hit pretty high legend, and I would definitely recommend giving it a try, if not just to have a little bit of fun playing something a little different. Looking at Rogue, we've got Kingsbane Rogue. Now, Kingsbane Rogue, this is a deck that a lot of people aren't playing, but they probably should. It's very aggressive. It has been slowly kind of warping into a stock list over time. Some cards that are really helping it out are the Paralytic Poison and the Silver Leaf Poison. And one thing I like about this list is because Kingsbane does cycle pretty hard, and you can also draw a lot with Secret Passage. There's a Zephyrus in here. So yes, there are duplicates in the list, but you draw so fast that it's a good chance that the Zeph is going to be active. So I think this is a really cool inclusion. And definitely Kingsbane Rogue is a deck to seriously consider laddering with. Now, this is probably my favorite deck in this selection of decks to present today. This is Odd Rogue by Pace. This is a deck that I have had an absolute blast with. I've played a couple hundred games with the list. It's got a Yoink in it. Now, you might be like, what? Why is there a Yoink in here? This card is insane. You got to keep in mind that the hero power costs 0. So, you got your 2/2 dagger equipped. You can play the Yoink. Some of the best hero powers you could get would be Life Tap, for example. The Steady Shot against slower decks. So, what's crazy is you play the Yoink, you're gonna play the hero power for 0, and then the following turn you play the hero power again, and then if you want to, you can equip the dagger. So it's 1 mana for an absolute ridiculous amount of value, and I honestly think that Yoink is going to become a card that stays in Odd Rogue for a long, long time. This list also has a ton of damage to get your opponent out of nowhere. So you'll see there's the double Sinister Strike, double Arcane Golem. So especially with the advantage of Secret Passage, you can just get lethals out of nowhere. And I have found that quite often you've won the game with this deck by turn 5. So Reno decks are not a problem. It's kind of an issue against aggro decks because you don't really have much ways to deal with the board outside of Prize Plunderer. But otherwise, really fun list. Definitely highly recommended. Okay, on to Shaman. Now, I know I did a whole week of Shaman decks, but it turns out the decks aren't that great. They're all kind of tier 2, tier 3, and they lose to all of the best decks. However, Reno Shaman is probably your best bet if you want to play a Shaman deck. This specific list has been tested pretty thoroughly. It's teched pretty well for the meta. So you'll see things like Armor Vendor Glacier Shard against aggro. You've got your classic, I call it classic now, Ice Fishing into Toxfin, Firemancer Flurgle. But otherwise, it's, this doesn't necessarily go infinite, and it doesn't need to go infinite. But with the lower thib, you can lock your opponent out. Lurker Below clears boards. So if you want to play Reno Shaman, I highly recommend playing out this list, and you'll have a lot of fun in the meantime. Looking at Warlock, it's everyone's favorite deck, Dark Glare. This is the deck that everyone is starting to whine about on Twitter. Whether it's actually that annoying, time will tell. It's been around for a while now. I find it pretty frustrating myself, but Ghost Dog is a wonderful human being, and he's having fun with the deck, so that's cool. But yeah, it's pretty stock at this point. The Rain of Fire is kind of interesting. You don't always see everyone running the Rain of Fire. Kind of the same with the Zephyrus, but kind of similar to the Kingsbane Rogue. You draw so fast that the Zeph is probably going to be active. But Tamsin really threw this deck over the edge. The ability to play Tamsin into multiple power overwhelmings is ridiculous. So this is not the easiest deck to play, but if you want to, get that super high legend, learn this deck, play it all day long, and you'll get super high legend. The other Warlock list I have for you is Reno Warlock. Now, again, take Reno decks with a grain of salt. It depends on the pilot in their specific meta and how they did that specific day. This appears to be a very anti-aggro list. So you'll see there is the Glacial Shard, there's a Broomstick, there is Unstable Fellbolt, which you don't often see. So lots of early game removal and stall. Sense Demons to get into your demons, because who doesn't love Voidcaller? There's a Ticketus in here. Again, I've never been a huge Ticketus fan because I always get mine off Voidcaller because I'm bad at the game. But it's in there. Kel Down the Breaker. A lot of people don't like this card. I actually think it's incredible. I'm very good at top decking it. So when you top deck this, it's absolutely insane. There's a Mutinous in here in addition to a Dirty Rat. So combo decks are going to have a little bit of trouble against this list. And I like how there's no N'Zoth. I've never been a fan of N'Zoth in Reno Lock. It's just too slow. So just a Blood Reaver Gul'dan is enough. So Reno Lock enthusiasts, if you want to have a bit of fun, this is the list that I would recommend. And to finish things up, we have a collection of warrior decks, starting with Dead Man's Hand Warrior by Old Uncle Skeeter, leader and overlord of the Dead Man's Hand Discord cult. I'm going to be honest with you all. I don't know how to play this list at all. There it is. It's got a Kresh, Lord of the Turtling, which is kind of cool. Apparently, I got to craft this, which I'm not happy about if I plan to highlight this deck. But there it is. If you like these sorts of decks, that's great. They're not for me, but there it is. Galakron Warrior by Odka. This is a player who hits very high legend on the Asia server. Galakron Warrior is one of these decks where people don't really play it, but it's actually pretty good. I like the brand Cold Light here, not just to draw, but also to mill against combo and Reno decks. Loatheb's always pretty clutch. Wrench Caliber for the Reno decks. So this deck might not perform too well against aggro, although it does have the early game pirate package. But if you want to play some Galakron Warrior, you might be surprisingly impressed with this list. And last but not least, Reno Warrior. This is a list from the China server, and Reno Warrior is actually way better than people are giving it credit for. So it is a Dead Man's Hand list, though it doesn't go infinite. But this list has been seeing success by multiple players. It's really greedy in the top end with the double N'Zoth and the Deathwing and the Mutinous. But to be honest, whenever I queue into Warrior, a lot of the time I hit people playing this list or something similar. So it's definitely something to consider. It might be the best Warrior deck out there, which is quite the statement to make. But yeah, give this one a try. The games might go a little longer than you anticipate, as I found. But if you want to have a blast, playing kind of like a mid-range tempo deck, this is the way to do it. If you want to find the deck codes for any of these lists, you'll find them in the description below. If you are a mobile user and it's too difficult for you to copy those deck codes, you can join my Discord. There is a easy to enter link in the description below. Otherwise, if you want to help support this channel, you can click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and until next time, hope to see you again.